Here comes the modern Western male to fend off the Russian war machine.
The queen, I'm the alpha, the omega, everything in between.
Ride with the mob, hum to Allah.
Yeah, I don't think things are looking too good. This says the Russians are now conscripting more people than ever. As a lot of foreign policy geopolitical experts believe we are on the precipice of something grand, big, and awful, as history has a way of rhyming, and it looks like we are just repeating what happened nearly 100 years ago. And it's a sad state of affairs since diplomacy isn't really working that well, as Donald Trump has been using the hard stick. But how hard has it been? As now we are seeing the ramifications of what I think is the breakdown of communications, as this is big news. And this is something that we were kind of foreshadowing, for warning people about. We've been talking about this type of foreign policy endeavor. If you go back in our videos, you could literally go back for about 15 years. And we were saying, hey, guys, there's a bigger conflict being set up here for this war between Russia and the United States here. All of this has been building up to this crescendo moment that I think we are at the most dangerous point of. And it's not a good one, as Putin has just ordered the biggest military draft in over a decade, with 160,000 conscriptions called up to go to the Russian war machine. Again, this is huge. In 2011, they drafted 160,000 people. They were aged between 18 to 30, and they expanded its military forces to 2.39 million troops. Now, the Kremlin, the Russians are saying the conscripts won't actually be fighting in Ukraine, that they will be there in case other conflicts expand in the region, which a lot of countries are already preparing for and building up for. Another very bad sign is that China's president soon will be visiting Moscow and will be their main guest for their Victory Day celebrations, where they celebrate their military successes in the 1940s. Now, with Xi Jinping going over to Russia, with China and Russia having an ever so closer alliance, with Russia saying it wants to balance, it doesn't want to just balance, but it wants to double down on China. Specifically, Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexei Overkov claimed that, quote, Moscow trying to balance ties with both U.S. and China, even as Russia deepens its strategic alliance with Beijing. And the Beijing alliance with China is something that, of course, provides a bigger threat against American hegemony, the U.S. petrodollar, as China-Russia relations could be building a multipolar world order that would rival the United States and question our military superiority, as now North Korea is also very heavily involved with the Chinese, with the Russians. North Korean troops are literally fighting on the front lines with the Russians in Ukraine right now, as another key person and group in this alliance is, of course, Iran. Iran has a lot of very strategic military ties to China, a lot of strategic military ties that are very significant to them with Russia, as Russia now is warning about catastrophic consequences, with Trump threatening to bomb Iran. And Trump's rhetoric has been extremely bullish, extremely, I would say, a little bit reckless. A lot of people are saying, oh, it's just, him talking a tough talk here. It's him, using the art of the deal here. But the moves that have been made against Iran, and Iran, again, has been not that good when it comes to retaliating. Like what happened with Iran recently getting attacked, their response was they're just going to send a couple missiles. Iran lost a significant key ally in the Syrian territory. The Iranians are losing their proxy soldiers inside of Yemen, with the Houthis that are absolutely being bombarded and obliterated by the U.S. war machine. That's been going on for quite a long time, though. And it definitely looks like the Houthis are just becoming more and more emboldened, as they just launched new missiles into Israel, as the United States is predominantly protecting Israel in the region there. as a lot of people here in America are saying, this really doesn't serve American foreign policy and interest here. And when we look at the maneuvers against Iran, it's predominantly for that reason. Otherwise, if we look at American foreign policy, this kind of hawkish neoconservative type of thinking has already empowered Iran to be as powerful as they are, especially when it came to the Iraq War, which allowed Iran to have a bigger sphere of influence in the region. But now Iran is rejecting direct talks with Donald Trump. As Donald Trump said, you guys have a few weeks. If you guys don't denuclearize, if you guys don't get rid of your nuclear program, we will be bombing you to oblivion. As the Iranians are saying, you saying you're going to bomb us? That's not really a good start to negotiations. That's not really a good place we want to start off at. And I know these are threats. I know Donald Trump so far, as far as his foreign policy has been a lot better than all the other presidents in our recent history. But him threatening to commit, I think, one of the biggest follies, one of the biggest mistakes, also is bringing us closer to a possibility of him going to a scenario potentially being one of the worst presidents, especially if he doubles down and commits on this war with Iran, which of course would trigger the Russians. The Russians, who of course are doubling down, connecting with the Chinese, and with the conflict not ending with Ukraine, this sets up for a perfect kind of larger showdown of world war-like proportions. Now, before talking about that, if this subject keeps you up at night like it keeps me up at night, you should check out and get some magnesium glycinate. It's great stuff. I like to have it with the last meal of my day. It's some really good stuff. A lot of people love to, take this stuff, as majority of people in the United States have very low magnesium. If you have low magnesium, you have high cortisol. It means you are having a more difficult time falling asleep. And there's signs in your bodies that could show you that you have low magnesium, like tight muscles, especially in your shoulder and your back, toe cramps when you stretch, eye twitches or muscle spasms. All of those are signs that you do not have enough magnesium. Most people don't. It's very difficult to test also with blood test. I started to see a notable, very big difference, especially with all my sleep trackers after taking some magnesium glycinate. I really like this stuff. Talk to any kind of medical professional before taking anything into your body, but magnesium glycinate has some really good stuff, especially when you take it with your last meal of the day. That absolutely recharges you and helps you with your sleep. Sleep is key towards everything. Get magnesium glycinate right now. wearechange.shop. The link is down in the description below. And supercharge your sleep and your rest because it definitely looks like there's very tumultuous times ahead with Donald Trump coming out and saying things like this.
On Iran, the president said he's also considering secondary tariffs if Iran doesn't agree to a nuclear deal. Quote, if they don't make a deal, there will be bombing, and it will be bombing the likes of which they have never seen before.
Can we not? Why? How does this serve America? How does this serve our country? What does this do to protect our citizens? It actually doesn't. The Iranians have just announced, we're going to take our missiles and we're going to be ready to bomb U.S. military installations all throughout the Middle East. As right now, it would put a lot of American lives at risk, a lot of American interests. There would be probably a retaliation on American soil as well. And when we look at the hacking capabilities of the Iranians, when we look at a full, all-out conventional kind of warfare, it's important that this is just going to be the same thing like we saw in the early kind of 1900s inside of Europe, where one country is friends with another country, and then they're friends with other countries, and then another country brings in their friends, and then it's just full-on global conflict, which I think is ridiculous. I think it's stupid. I think it makes no sense at all. As we have two pathways here, and I told you guys which two pathways we have here presented for you guys, and it looks like we are definitely going down the wrong pathway as of right now with all the key indicators, with all the key signs here. as we were propelling very fast towards just doomsday. And, whether it's going to be a localized conflict, if there's a conflict in Iran, the Russians are going to be like, okay, here's all the stuff we're going to give you guys to, fight this proxy conflict, just like the United States is giving to Ukraine. And then these proxy conflicts surely and very slowly could just expand, grow, get bigger. And when they do, get larger. When they do, there's no going back. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle here, as we have the Economic Times, the India Times, specifically talking about how we have the first sign of World War III. Iran says it is ready to strike U.S. if Donald Trump decides to bomb Tehran and its military facilities. Hopefully it doesn't get there, but we could definitely expect China and Russia to support fully Iran in this potential proxy war, as Iran has their own proxy war that they are now fighting inside of Yemen. All of this as Europe now is doubling down and becoming more draconian. It's becoming more totalitarian. Now, I know a lot of people like to accuse Putin being a dictator, and sure, there's an argument to be made here, but look at the troubling developments happening right now in places like France, where their front runner, who is a right-wing person, was just barred and sent to jail. Romania, elections were canceled because a right-wing candidate was winning. He was arrested and imprisoned. Germany is preparing very similar moves with the ADF party. Slovakia, there was an assassination attempt on a right-wing political figure. Hungary is continuing to attack Orban there and continues to exclude Hungary from the EU decisions, as the Hungary government is also now getting is making some very kind of tough moves against Viktor Orban there, who is one of the few right-wing political figures. Look at Poland, specifically a country that used to be very right-wing dominated, that for the first time in a long time, a left-wing political party has won and is ruling over Poland. This, as we also found out that USAID money was shipped into in a way to undermine right-wing political causes inside of my home country. Estonia, 25% of Russians were just barred from voting in elections. So the world is becoming more dangerous. The world is becoming more insular. And when we look at the left-wing kind of globalist mindset of the Europeans, it is a mindset that is very heavily doubling down and preparing for a full, all-out conventional war with Russia. We have seen similar moves being made by Poland, Germany, France, the United Kingdom, making preparations, warning their citizens, stock up on food, get ready. There's a potential here for a full battle that would devastate and destroy all of normal civilization that we take for granted right now. Peace is something that should be respected, something that should be fought for. But we're talking about conventional, unconventional, fourth, fifth generational forms of warfare and new types of drone warfare that is absolutely terrifying. And when you look at the production, you look at the amount of money that it cost the Iranians to produce these drones compared to the Americans. It cost the Iranians like $6,000 to make these very, very sophisticated, very effective drones. It takes the Americans about $20,000 to make the same. That's a big difference there, specifically when we look at the financial buying power of a lot of these countries involved in these conflicts. As right now, countries like Finland, they're raising their defense spending as the Russian threat is continuing to grow here. Now, I know there's a bunch of people saying, yes, the living Nostradamus is giving chilling warnings. Again, hopefully that's not going to happen here. I don't know who this Botox dude is, but again, that hopefully won't happen. But the chances of it happening has gone up. And that to me is not a good thing. It needs to be called out. There needs to be more détente. There needs to be more peace. There needs to be more negotiations. There needs to be more ceasefires. We need to make sure that a lot of this is unwound. Now, Putin seeing the writing on the wall, saying, oh, yeah, the Europeans, they're going to make sure that they never elect anyone that could have any kind of common sense rhetoric here. They're going to make sure that they always elect a globalist warmonger here in Europe. They're preparing. They're preparing for a fact. I got to prepare too, especially now when we have Trump threatening the Russians. And now Putin's like, okay, well, if we're going to fight, we're going to fight. And that's stupid. And that's dumb. And we should do everything in our power to prevent that from happening. If you agree, share this video. Get some magnesium glycinate. We're gonna need it with the tough times ahead of us. Because yeah, sleepless nights are a real thing. Try to avoid it because it's really horrible for your brain and your body. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on youtube.com/wearechange.